Have you ever been completely wrong about the person everyone warned you about? Everyone in our building warned me about the man in 4C. They called him Pharaoh, and the stories reached me before I'd even finished carrying my boxes up the stairs. He'd done time, they said. He never spoke. He had a scar that ran from his ear down to his collar, and he walked the hallways at 2 in the morning, stopping outside people's doors like he was listening. Keep your kid away from him, the building manager Delia Carlin told me my first day, pressing a clipboard into my hands. We're collecting signatures to get him out. You'll want to sign now. I signed. Of course I signed. I had a 6-year-old, Nina, and I'd just heard a stranger described as a scarred ex-con who prowled the halls at night. I didn't need convincing. The first week seemed to prove every warning right. I'd hear his door open at exactly 2 a.m., said heavy footsteps moving slow down the corridor, pausing, then moving on. One night I opened my door a crack and saw him standing outside the unit across from mine, perfectly still, his enormous frame filling the hallway, holding a small notebook. He wrote something in it, then moved to the next door. My blood went cold. I bolted the lock and lay awake until sunrise. Delia loved when I told her, "See? A notebook. He's cataloging us. God knows what for." She had 22 signatures already. All she needed was the landlord's approval. And the landlord, conveniently, was her brother. Then the cold snap came. 3 days of it. The kind where the pipes groan and the windows fur with ice. Our building ran on ancient gas furnaces, one per unit, half of them older than I am. I'd filed 2 complaints about my unit, a faint Swedish smell whenever the heat kicked on. Delia's answer was a laminated sign taped to my door. Maintenance requests must be submitted in writing with a $25 fee. I need you to understand something. I did not wake up on my own that night. I was already unconscious. What I remember is the pounding. Not knocking, pounding. A fist like a battering ram against my door, and a voice I'd never heard, huge and hoarse, shouting my daughter's name and mine. "Get up! Get the girl! Get down now!" I couldn't stand. My head was a balloon. The door burst inward. Pharaoh had kicked it off its frame, and then his arms were around Nina, and he was hauling me by the collar into the freezing hallway, where the air hit me like a slap, and I understood I had nearly died in my sleep. He had already done the unit across the hall. He had already done old Mr. Alvarez's place at the end. He went back in twice more while we sat on the frozen sidewalk, once for Mr. Alvarez's oxygen tank, once for a cat that wouldn't come out. The fire crew measured carbon monoxide in 3 units at levels high enough to kill. Cracked heat exchangers, they said. They had been reported for months, over and over, and quietly buried by a manager who didn't want to pay to replace them. The tenants' meeting 2 weeks later was supposed to be Delia's eviction vote. It turned into something else. She stood at the front with her clipboard, still trying, still saying the word safety when I stood up. "You want to talk about the man who walks the halls at night?" I said. "Let's." He's a retired firefighter, 29 years. He was on the crew that couldn't reach the top floor of a building on Halsted in time, and 4 people died, 2 of them kids, because a landlord had disabled the detectors to save money. The room went silent. He hasn't slept right since, so every night at 2, he walks our halls and checks the age of every furnace and every alarm by hand, and he writes it down. I've seen the notebook. The smell in my unit is logged in it 3 weeks before it nearly killed my daughter. I set the pages on the table. His handwriting, every date, every unit, every complaint Delia had shredded. He wasn't cataloging us, I said. He was the only one keeping us alive. Delia's brother stood up in the back, the landlord who had signed off on burying all those reports, and walked out before anyone could turn to look at him. He never got the chance to evict Pharaoh. The tenants voted that night to remove him instead, and by the end of the week, the state was already asking questions about a building on Halsted. Pharaoh moved out 3 months later to a place with a garden, and I helped him carry his boxes down the same stairs I used to hurry past his door on. On the last trip, he pressed something into my hand. A notebook, fresh and blank, my name written inside the cover. 2 a.m., he said, the most I ever heard him say. Someone has to walk the halls. So now I do.